So I'm here with Jason Markowicz, who owns Fitness Premier, and it's a regional franchise, correct?
Yeah, regional. We have some expansion going nationally now, but yeah, started as a Midwest brand.
Now, when I talked to you before, we discussed that you had about 21 gyms around in the local area here, and you're expanding. You've got some in Florida now as well, I believe.
Yeah.
And then where else are you branching into?
So Florida, Georgia, Montana, and Colorado this year. We have some stores opening.
And where are you planning to expand to?
In those markets?
Yeah.
So specifically the Atlanta market, and then we're in the Sarasota market, looking to grow in that market.
Okay.
And then we're in Bozeman, Montana, beautiful part of the country. If you haven't been,
I have.
And outside of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, in those markets. So I've got some great franchisees in those markets that we're excited about.
So what made you go further out then? Because you've been very successful here in the local area. And what made you decide to kind of expand out to, West Coast and East Coast, right?
Yeah, honestly, we've been in the business 25 years. So we've been, owning and operating these locally, regionally, just kind of expanded our footprint organically. So came to a point after 25 years where we had the business model kind of anchored down. So we wanted to expand through franchising. So we started kind of really publicly marketing that in the last couple of years. Okay. So we've attracted some franchisees that were excited about what we're doing, that synced up to grow in various states. So that's kind of how we ended up outside of our backyard, if you will.
And now you went from being a pretty decent football player to being a franchise owner. So what are some of the competitive traits or whatever that you might say from the football field that makes you responsible for the success you've done in the fitness space?
That's a great question, and there's a lot of synergy and continuation, I think, of just competitive traits that athletes have in general that relate to business that I've translated for myself and other team members in our business, right? Just the idea of like consistency wins the game, right? So when you think about like
persistent, consistent effort.
Just working out in the weight room to training and practice and just doing it every day, regardless of how you feel. I think that trait, innately translates us to getting up for work and kind of doing the same thing consistently over time is what creates success in different ways. So I think I have a kind of obsession with that, just being a habit type of guy that just builds habits that are helpful. That and just being gritty and tough and competitive, right? Like everybody wants to win and just being gritty. Like it's not always easy when you're in business for yourself. When you're an entrepreneur, it's, it can be a grind at times. It can be lonely, and then you got to really kind of muster up courage and confidence sometimes when there's nobody else around. So I think being an athlete that's, lost more games than I've won in my, 47 years on earth, it teaches you how to be humble and always move forward.
Yeah. Now, how much of that is one of the mantras I found in the marketing space is that motivation plus discipline equals success. Not one of those things by itself is going to give you the end result, but where you combine the two.
Sure.
Is that something you picked up from football, or is that something just as a family characteristic or a personality trait?
Yeah, I've always been a kind of a busybody. A guy that likes to stay busy and stay active and do things. So, motivation and being hungry is, I think, kind of spiritually been embedded in me as a young kid of just always wanting to do more and do good and, stay active. I think the discipline is what I've, kind of picked up over the years, which is just kind of mastering my own craft, of like understanding who I am and some of the systems that I need to be successful, at home, at the personal life, in business. So yeah, I like that mantra. I might steal that one.
It's not mine. I wish I wish I could say that. So again, you kind of your space has been in the smaller community focused markets and stuff. So in this area of like big box stores and things like that, what I guess what's the most valuable asset in the local community that makes you successful as a franchise?
Yeah, I think for us, it's people for sure. Like we focus on making our franchisees and really the hometown hero of their market. So we think about some of the markets that we're in. They are smaller tertiary communities. Some of them are a little bit larger, your traditional kind of suburban markets. But regardless of where we are, we want to be the community hub of energy and inspiration and connectivity. And for us, like the biggest asset is definitely our franchisees, our teams, our employees there, that drive an experience that make people want to come there at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Like it's not the equipment we buy, it's not the colors we paint the walls, it's not the location we pick, even though all those things kind of matter. The secret sauce and the hard work is in the people, and the relationships, and the culture that they create.
Right. Yeah. Kind of a side question I was thinking of, because I know myself personally, with my martial arts experience and what I've seen in other like dojos and gyms like that, one of the biggest issues from what I've seen has been some like churn. So what is that? How is that something that you've managed to kind of get a grip on? How are you managing that in your franchise space with your owners?
For sure. It's a constant focus. Like attrition and retention of clients is a real thing in the membership fitness wellness space, right? Like it's one of those things that is, for some of us, it's just part of what we do in our habits. But for many people, it's kind of one of those optional things that some come and go and they pick and choose when they want to be active. So for us, we're always trying to come up with different ways to keep them connected by just, helping them build habits that keep the fitness and their health and wellness at the end of the day top of mind for them and a priority.
Yeah. So I was kind of hoping you were going to go along those lines, because I see so many spaces where they get into the McGym thing, the franchise model, where it's a matter of numbers basically to overcome that churn rate. But as you were alluding to, it's building the relationships with the members and your clients and things that kind of keeps them coming back. And it's not just a walk-in or a face through the door. It's that personal connection.
Yeah, they're not renting a treadmill from you. There's a relationship like there and somebody who cares. Yeah.
Now, you've mentored a lot of owners over your years. And what's the biggest market myth that stops a single club owner from successfully scaling from 5 to 10 locations, from taking it from a small space to something that you're not worried about putting food on the table, I guess?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? You go from one location to trying to scale what you're doing. I think systems, having systems around you that are scalable really matter. And having capital and resources to be able to do it so that you can make those transitions from being somebody who's in the trenches at one location to going to 2, 3 and scaling. So I think the system support around you and your team and the way you think about leadership and really understanding your own skill set so you can hire around that to develop. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So I think a lot of being in business is understanding who you are as an operator and then building a team around that so that you can scale accordingly, right? Everybody's built differently and everybody can scale and grow their business in the way that is meaningful for them. But I think understanding who you are as an operator and then having a foundation of understanding that and building around that is a real key to going to that 2, 3, 4, and then obviously having the capital.
Scale it up. Yeah. Now, and we'd spoken about this before. One of the things that I've seen as a challenge for people when you're taking it from that smaller individual space to a larger franchise, as you're talking about scalability, is the habit with so many business owners to be like kind of boots on the ground and they're doing everything. Is that something that you've encountered as a challenge when you're dealing with your individual franchises and teaching them how to work on the business, not in the business?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a constant, especially in the service business that we're in, like we're in the people business, there's activity every day, there's people checking in, there's needs that are going on in location. So, we built a few systems around that. Our company runs on traction at the franchisor level. We teach that system down to our franchisees, which is, I think, enables them to build some version of an org chart and accountability chart at their unit level so they understand kind of who's doing what. And then you can kind of back that into a weekly meeting cadence that's meaningful so that they can kind of track what's going on in their business. And then that helps make them scalable, right? So they have a system of tracking kind of who's doing what, who's responsible for what, that they can build so they can remove themselves for different aspects of the business and focus on their sweet spot.
And not spending all their time working on $10 jobs when they can be working on 120-hour jobs.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I know Alex Hermosi is huge in this franchise space, and he kind of modeled. Is there anything or takeaways from what he's done that you've been able to borrow from with your business?
Yeah, he's a sales and marketing guru, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of good,
especially in this space.
Yeah, principles and all that for sure. I think at the crux of it, and I'm sure we've adopted and taken some of those principles when it comes to digital ad campaigns and referral system and some of the stuff he's done and talked about. I think at the crux of it, it's like we try to focus on making sure that we have the right people in the right seats, the right franchisees in place that can become a magnet for their community, and then all the marketing stuff is super important. The sales strategies of making sure we have people connected to brand and buy stuff and drive revenue, like we focus on that stuff immensely. But at our core, it's like, how do we put the right people in the right seats to create a great experience and make that magnetic in the community, right? Mm-hmm. And then all the other stuff that's out there, and we aggregate it and we try to filter it down to keep it simple so that we can scale it and do it, and it's not overwhelming for the units to execute and be consistent with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. When you're looking at a fitness business from an investment and acquisition standpoint, so this gets more to your corporate side.
Yeah.
What does brand authority look like on a balance sheet? Is that just like social media followers, or is it something deeper?
Yeah, I think, the brand reputation of market, when we look at a club and a conversion, it matters, right? Like, what's the reputation online? How do the Google reviews look? What's the social media accounts look like? And then even spending time in the location, the physical appearance, what's the member distribution look like? How's it being maintained and taken care of? How does the equipment? And then, revenue, right? What's cash flow look like? So you aggregate all those things into a box, and you can usually, we try to get ourselves in front of a fair amount of those conversations to be helpful to independent club owners, and provide them resources to be helpful to them, to support them and their goals and their needs.
So do you look at quantitative metrics then to kind of see what your ROI is from a marketing standpoint? Is like, I know so many businesses that they spend a ton of money on the marketing, but they really don't have any insight into like, is what the money that they're spending actually paying off?
Yeah, sure.
So when you're looking at it from a balance sheet perspective, it's like, okay, I get that, whether you're doing organic outreach or whether you're doing something like paid advertising, how do you know if it's working?
Yeah.
It doesn't translate directly to, okay, I'm doing this and I'm getting people in the door.
Yeah.
Or is it? I mean, from a balance sheet perspective.
Yeah, from a like dollars and cents, what's on your balance sheet, money in, money out. It's tough to track, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can track what you spend in marketing, how many leads come in, how many memberships you get, how many service sales, and we track those sort of things, right, to make sure the money is being put to good use. I think our approach is like track the basic KPIs and then just make sure that, we're out there doing all the blocking and tackling, we call it. That needs to be done in the community, right? Like sponsoring the local baseball team and doing some of the grassroots stuff. So like, we try to really encourage our franchisees to spend at least 3% of gross sales in local marketing. We have 2% that goes to kind of a national fund that focuses on the SEO connection and some of the website stuff and some of the other paid marketing we can do kind of regionally. And then, a lot of the sweet spot is in the, getting out there in the community, sponsoring the local parade, building relationships with the community, being active, and sponsoring the
building that know,
team.
like, and trust factor.
Yeah. Being the logo on the back of the T-shirts of the 11-year-old travel baseball team and those sort of things stack up consistently again over time to make a difference and an impact in that community.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the last question: if you're starting over, just from scratch, and you had $0 with all your knowledge and experience, what's the first move you'd make to make your business dominate in the Chicagoland fitness market?
Wow, that's a great question.
What did you learn that you wish you knew with all the experience when you first started?
Yeah, I would go all in, and I would find a market that feels like it might be a little bit underserved, and I would build a beautiful facility that could serve the masses in that market, and I would do a great job, and I would find the right team around me to execute consistently on a daily basis, and go right back at it and scale that again.
You think it'd be no problem? Flip a coin and
it wouldn't be no problem, but I think when you think like if it's in the fitness industry, like you said, I think you'd have to think about like how are you different than some of the other clubs out there, right? Like what's unique about you that some of the boutiques and the big boxes aren't doing? And to me, it's like with tech and AI and all the things that are out there, everybody's in social media. I think the ones who can figure out how to build community and connectivity and like be real people are the ones who are going to win in the fitness game in the next 10 years. Like you're going to have to automate and be tech savvy and like be efficient. But I think if you can create community and relationships and do that well, you'll stand out above the crowd, and I would focus on doing that.
So it's not something AI is going to take over. You need the personality there.
Yeah. I think humans still want to be around humans, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to start working out with a bunch of robots in the morning with my 5 a.m. crew.
Not yet, anyways. We might get there, but not yet.
Yeah.
And I think that about wraps it up.
All right. Well, awesome. Hey, thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much.
You bet.